everybody. God, this is so weird. It's been super long, and I don't really know how to do this anymore. Yeah, I've been streaming on Twitch, doing a couple of fun gaming sessions when I have the ability to. A lot of has changed in the past year. One of the main things being that this is hard to talk about, and it's been over a year, but for some reason it's still like really difficult for me to touch on. Um, about November 2018, I was woken up by a pounding on my door at about 3 a.m. and it was a Saturday or a Sunday. I think it was either Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember exactly. It was like the very beginning of November, the week before my finals of my final quarter for like graduating in general, and I thought maybe people are getting drunk and tried to go back to sleep. I remember distinctly being like, why does it smell like incense in my house? Are my roommates up at 3 a.m. burning incense? That seems kind of dangerous. And I turned over, and then there was even more banging at my door. It's people shouting. I live in a city, so like that kind of happens sometimes. People get drunk. I lived, I guess I should say, in the city where you could get drunk on the street and police officers wouldn't do shit about it. So like I was thinking, oh, it's tourists being crazy. I didn't realize it was coming from my back door, which is up a flight of stairs. So, finally one of my roommates went over and opened the door because they're braver than I am. Usually if people are banging on my door, I'm just kind of like, I'm not here. Also purple fingers for the purple hair. Yeah, they were like blah blah blah, and I was half awake, and all of a sudden I heard the word fire, and that would got me out of fucking bed like immediately. And I thought the house is on fire. I immediately got all of my stuff that I wanted, got my dog, and ran outside. And we went down the steps because, like I said, I lived on the second floor, and just look up from like this, like the second flight or the first flight of stairs going up the steps, and I see just fire. Our next door neighbor's house was completely engulfed. I mean, I can't say next door neighbor because we lived next to a house that was basically inhabited by like homeless people because it was just left to ruin. A lot of houses in my area were left to ruin because nobody could afford to repair them. They were like really nice old houses, but people just went bankrupt trying to keep up with the repairs. And so I'm guessing that's what happened. We still don't really know what caused the fire, but it went from being completely, not in flames to in flames in like 10-15 minutes. Some of the people who were awake at that time said that they saw it about 10 minutes before, and it was completely, fine. They didn't notice anything wrong, and then they looked over and it was like, so I'm guessing that it was some sort of like really quick light up. I don't know exactly. And just the insane amount of like similarities, because I'm imagining like in those disaster movies that they actually do burn houses for them, like for the effects, or at least they did before they had good special effects. So like I was just thinking, oh my god, it looks like that super volcano movie when all the houses caught on fire, and like my brain just could not process any of it. We went down the steps, not sure what to do. My roommates were both like just completely freaking out, so I just take charge and I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna figure out how to get out of here. Let's find out what's going on. Me in crisis takes I kind of turn into like the person that figures out what to do. It's like, let's go figure out where we're gonna go. And our neighbor was across the street from us, away from the house that was on fire, thankfully, was like, hey, why don't you come over here in our backyard and we'll figure out what to do. We'll get you situated away from the fire, and if it gets dangerous, we can keep going and find another place to like stay, because it was 3 a.m. Like we wanted to be asleep, and everyone was just like freaked out, and the firefighters had it under control more or less. At least that's what we thought. And then we were in the backyard kind of just like doing that thing that people do when they're kind of in a traumatic situation where they just sit and watch, like that bystander syndrome. Like, it's not like we could have done anything. We were watching it, and then a tree caught on fire, because the houses where I lived were like this far apart from each other, which makes it even scarier because the fire started on my side of the house that I was looking at. Immediately saw that the tree was catching fire, and I was like, okay, maybe they'll get it out. They'll make sure it goes out. And then the tree caught fire to the house next to it. I didn't see anyone doing anything about it, and my brain just kind of freaked out. So I was like, watch my dog. I'm gonna go see if those people are all out of the house. And they were like, where are you going? And my brain just like immediately was just like, I need to go make sure those people are out of the house. So I literally like jumped over like a fence, took off running, and went all the way around to the front of the house, like got attention of firefighter, and I was like, do you know if everyone's out? And he's like, I don't know who's in there, and nobody seems to be responding. And so I just run into the house, which, you know, now me thinking was like, damn, Angela, you're a dumbass. But at the time I was just like, I don't want anyone getting hurt. I don't want anyone dying. Like, that was my main like thought. And I was like, it's on the attic now. There's no way it could get down to me within the next like 5-10 minutes. So I'm just going to go in there, scream really loud, tell everyone to get out because the house is on fire, and then run out. And that's what I did. After that, like, I noticed that there was ash raining down from above, like we were in fucking Pompeii or something, and freaked out about that. And I imagine it's because there was a lot of newspaper and stuff from the homeless people living in that house, and it just all kind of like lit up and just, you know, kind of started raining down. So I ran over to the house even farther away from the fire and was like underneath their roof for a long time because I was worried that like I was gonna get burnt or something by it. And then after a while it calmed down a bit, and I just was like, I need to see my dog because I can't imagine how she's feeling. I'm freaking out. She must be freaking out. So I went back, she saw me, we had like just like a long hug, and then we stayed at my neighbor's house because I worked with one of the people. It was really weird. I moved in, and then I was like, hey, I know that guy, and then I realized I had worked with him at the restaurant that I worked for a year, and was like, what's up? And so we knew each other, and then my roommates knew their neighbor because they had been living there longer than me, and so we just kind of went into their house and like laid down on their couch and tried to go to sleep despite there being a fire. The fire got put out pretty quickly. It was like, I'd say like for a full-on house blaze, like the whole thing, like things were falling off of the house because it was burning so quickly. It probably got put out in like 3 hours, which I think is pretty fast for that kind of blaze. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what caused it, if it was electrical or something else, because I know they were doing repairs to the house before it happened. And like, part of me is wondering if the person realized how messed up the house was and was just like, I'm just gonna cash in my insurance, and like burnt it down, which is a bunch of bullshit. But you know, the city that I live in, a lot of people are like, they'll do like anything to save some money, which is ridiculous. But you know, I had to live in that house afterwards. It happened. Nobody really did anything. I thought the fire department was gonna like take down the house. You know, like they figured that the house would be fine, I guess, and they didn't take it down, even though it was like part of it was like this, and the other part that was near my house was like unstable. So I freaked out the entire time, and I had to go back to living in my house. My whole room was flooded because the roof had caught fire. Like, there's a porch, and then my room was right here, and the porch caught fire. So they had to fix that pretty much immediately, and then had to deal with a lot of water damage in my house, and was super grateful that none of my stuff really got messed up, because I literally just the reason none of my stuff got messed up was because I had all of my stuff on the floor, all of my clothes and stuff that, you know, would soak up water on the floor, because I was just about to do laundry. And, you know, when you do laundry, or at least when I do laundry, I just kind of like throw everything out of the basket onto the floor and separate it into piles. And like, that was my idea. That soaked up all the water, so none of my stuff got really badly damaged. Some of my clothes were not very well off after that, and had to like throw away my dog's favorite toy because it was covered in ash and gross water. And but BarkBox was super nice about it, and I told them what happened, and they sent me a new one, and it's even bigger than the one that she used to have, and she loves it still. So it took her a second to get used to the new one because it didn't smell like her, but she loves it, and I really appreciate BarkBox because I was just in a hot mess, and I like the smallest things were making me off, like just go off and be upset. And for a really long time afterwards, I was not okay because I was living in that house next to the burnt down house that was not being taken care of. I lived there for I think another 6 months. It might have been longer. Honestly, those months are a blur. I went from being pretty well off, like mentally wise, like I felt like I was getting somewhere, to just immediately shut down. Felt like all of the last 5 years of my like progress taking care of myself mentally went from like to zero. And it was really devastating for me because I was so ready. Like I managed to graduate still. They let me postpone taking my finals until I was ready, like doing my final project, taking my final tests and stuff until I was ready, which was really nice of them. And I graduated with honors, which surprised the hell out of me because my high school grades were not the greatest. So the fact that I managed to get all A's and B's for the 5 years that I was in that university just astounded me. That was a good point, but a lot of that afterwards was like, so what am I supposed to do now? I can't even leave the house without having anxiety. My dog was just shattered. Like I had to temporarily, like I say, put her on vacation because if she even got like a whiff of smoke, she still kind of has issues now, but it's not as bad as it was. But if she even got a whiff of smoke, she would go off. She'd like freak out. And so I couldn't take her in public because people smoke, obviously. And it was like really hard for me to go anywhere and anything. I relied heavily on my roommates, and that's another thing that kind of went really bad. When we finally did move, we moved out of the city because every time I would hear a fire truck, I would freak out. So we all decided, me and my two roommates that were also still there, and hadn't moved out yet, we decided we were going to move into a place together outside of the city. And I think that's kind of where things kind of went to shit. At the time, thought that I was really close with these roommates, and we were, we bonded over a traumatic experience, but things started to happen that made me realize that they really didn't care about me as much as I cared about them, at least. It got really hard for me to live in that area, like, with them like that. My dog managed to break her toe. Like, the first week we moved in, she ran around the backyard because we had this massive backyard, and I think my landlord left some things there, and she must have tripped over it or smashed her foot against it or something while she was running, because she runs like greyhound fast. For a German Shepherd, she gets going. So I imagine she like stubbed her toe on something left in the backyard, and it just like fully shattered that toe, and it was fine, and it was going well, and then my veterinarian kind of fucked up and forgot to check her casts one week and said it would be fine. And the next week I noticed that there's one, it was really, really nasty looking, and then two, it just smelled awful, and I was like, this isn't good. So I immediately took her in. Even though it was a Saturday, they let me go in, and I immediately took her into vet and was like, something's wrong. I know there's something wrong. And they took off her bandage, and it was awful. And they showed me, after they cleaned it out and everything, obviously, but they showed me how bad it was, and was like immediately seeming like it was my fault the whole time. And so I was so upset that I didn't do anything at the time. I was like, okay, just fix it. I'll pay anything. I don't want my dog to lose her foot. That, I don't want my dog to have to live without a foot, but I also need my service animal. Like, there was a lot of things going on in my brain. I was like, just fix it. And they managed to sew her up really well. She's now got like there's her toes, and then the paw pad. This is like half the size it was, but she walks on it fine. We went to the wellness checkup, and the vet turned around and said, this is your fault. And they would not even begin to realize that this was probably their fault for not replacing the bandage every 3 days or so. Like, they weren't very responsible with it. And so I left and went to a different vet that was actually closer, because that vet was 30 minutes away. But I stayed with them because I had been with them for over a year and a half, and they've been really nice to me. So I went to the new vet that was across the street from my house, a lot cheaper to get to because I don't drive. They said oh, if it were us, we would have been changing the bandage every day. That kind of set me off But she is fully healed now. She doesn't have any pain walking on it. Everything seems to be good. She knows I'm talking about her because she's coming up here. Do you want to come here? I tried to get an emotional support animal, this cute little bunny rabbit, and that's kind of when shit hit the fan. Because like before, when we had moved, there was this huge issue with my roommates not knowing how to move from place to place, and it costed us like way more than it should have with movers because they were taking forever. Like even the movers said that to my dad, who was the one that like thankfully covered the expenses because I did not have that much money in my bank account. And then there was the whole issue with like them owing my dad money and them just kind of ignoring it. But then the thing that really upset me was I was going through a rough time having to deal with my dog being in so much pain and not being able to do much for her. And I was like, okay, not only did like my dog go from, not being able to do service work to finally coming to me and being like, I want to come with you when we go outside. And I think I'm good now. Like she told me she was ready, basically. Your dog doesn't talk to you, Angela. And I'm like, I know, but like, she kind of does if you understand how dogs work. But yeah, she told me she was ready. And so I started taking her out again. And then like immediately after that, she got hurt. Not even working. She was running around our backyard. But then I had another, 6 to 8 weeks without my dog. Then the complication made it even longer. And it was to the point where I wasn't going out anymore by myself because it was just difficult, and I was constantly going with my roommate. But then we had we're just like, we don't want her to have this animal because we don't think she could take care of it, so we're not letting her have it, or we don't want it in the house. And I was like, okay, but like, I'm gonna be paying for it, taking care of it, all this other stuff. It was kind of annoying to me because I was just like, you guys have 2 animals. They had a dog and a cat, and I wanted to get a rabbit. That's what I had before I had my dog, was rabbits. So for me, it was like, this is gonna be my ESA. And I was looking and looking, and I found this perfect rabbit that I didn't even realize was perfect when I found him. His name was Dumpling. And I get really upset about this because, like I said, rabbits were my only pets before I had my dog. And she's not really a pet. She's not trained to be a pet, at least. I met him, I gave him food, and I was like, okay, I'm taking him home. So I put down a deposit, and I told my roommates, I'm like, hey, it's my choice. This is my animal. This is also my house, too. I want to have this rabbit. And I think it's best for me, and I don't think that you guys should be really getting so pissed off about it. It was like one of those things where I was like, this is a no-brainer for me, and I don't understand why you're against it so hard. But it came to fruition that they basically told my landlord, and all of them were like, no, we don't want her to have it. And then after a while, when they didn't really give any good reasoning for me not wanting to have, like, me not getting this rabbit besides I don't want her to have it, it made me realize that they were very controlling people, and they just wanted to be in control of me and control the situation to the point where I wasn't able to do anything that I could on my own. Like, I'm allergic to cats, but like, I was fine with them having a cat. And this woman that was with us, with the other 2 roommates, was also allergic to animals, but she signed on a lease with us for some reason. That completely bewildered me. Even my landlady was like, I don't know why she's living with you if she's allergic to animals. So that was like her excuse. She was like, well, I'm allergic to animals. I'm like, yeah, but there's already 3 in the house. Like, it's not gonna get any worse if I put like a 3-pound rabbit in the house as well. Like, that's not how this works. And then my other roommates were saying, we don't think she can take care of her, even though I'd been taking care of my dog, who was badly ill for a very long time because of the infection and stuff, by myself mostly. Like, my roommates were helping me, but not as much as they would. And then I think, was it around the same time? It was close to the same time that my roommate's dog had a heat stroke because they left her outside on one of those things that you put in the ground on like the hottest day of the year. And I had to like basically go into another crisis mode and be like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. The vet that I go to is next door. We're gonna take her to that vet, and they're gonna figure it out, and she's not going to die, because I love animals. So like, for me, it was like, no, we're not gonna let this happen. So I just took charge and was like, let's get in the car, let's go. And my roommate was nice enough to let the dog in the car because she was dying. They said that if she hadn't gotten there anywhere sooner, if I just let everybody like freak out about it for 15 more minutes, she could have just been dead. And I honestly think that she almost died in my arms, because I picked her up and I was just like, we're going to the car, we're going to the vet right now, and called the vet and did all of the, like, this is how old she is, this is what she is, because I knew all this stuff, because like I said, my roommates were close with me, so I just, I did all of that, and I was like, just put her under my name for right now. I could have been left with the bill since I had her under my name, but luckily they paid for everything. Like, it wasn't like as awful as it could have been. The dog was completely fine. She made a full recovery, and they kind of like acted like it never happened, which kind of upset me too. But I mean, like, they were more cautious about her going out in the heat, and they were like really cautious for a really long time. And then it got to the point where like they weren't allowing my dog to play with her dog because they thought that she would get her overheated. There was a lot of things that were just bothering me about this, and it got to the point where I was already really bad off with my PTSD and trying to deal with that, and then dealing with these people that didn't want me around anymore because of the rabbit situation, and just my dog in general was annoying them now, and like, she wasn't doing anything. I don't know. I don't really know, and I still don't understand it, but I finally got out of that situation about the beginning of the year, about like mid-January, and I am here now, so that's nice. I'm closer to my parents. I'm undergoing treatment for my fibromyalgia and hypoglycemia, and that seems to be working out well. It's been really difficult for me, so I don't know if I'm going to be continually doing regular videos. This is a really long fucking video. But yeah, I stream on Twitch. I will put the link below. When I do have the energy to do so, I have a lot of fun with people there. It's not like a huge crowd or anything, but it's nice to not play games by myself when my friends who usually play games with me are busy. Like, I just like talking to people. And that's kind of why I did YouTube for a while, was just to talk to people. So if you don't like hearing the sound of my voice, you probably shouldn't be subscribed. I'm more or less back. I hope to do more videos about like mental health and just me being weird and ranting and all the state of the union type of stuff that you probably have heard about 15 times before. So that was me almost dying. Dealing with PTSD is a bitch, and I didn't realize I had it. Oh, like, I had a suspicion that I had it, but it kind of went up a notch, like me going, yeah, I definitely have it, after the fire happened, and I started having really bad trauma nightmares like immediately after it happened, to the point where it wasn't just about the fire, it was about all of the trauma that I had dealt with before. So I imagine it just really like brought all of that back up again and made my PTSD worse. But beforehand I was like, oh no, you can't have PTSD if you're not like a soldier in a war or something, which is, BS. That's not how that works. But it was difficult for me to accept, and now I've started to accept it, and I don't really know how to work through it. Like, that's the thing where it was difficult for me, and things that I'm working on with my therapist, because it's like, with anxiety I have those tools, with depression I have those tools, but with PTSD I literally had no clue, and it ended up with my depression being way worse than I could handle, especially living in that situation where nobody wanted me to be around and everything, and I was like, I don't even want to be around anymore. Like, that was a difficult time for me. But now everything's gotten a lot better. At least like the atmosphere is a lot better for me, so I'm hoping that things get like better mentally for me eventually. Obviously it's not recovery is not a straight line, so I'm working through it. Yeah, that's the update from the past year and a half that I have not been on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch, subscribe if you wanna. You don't have to. I adore you guys who are still watching, and I didn't realize I had so many subscribers, so that's cool. Hi. I will talk to you soon. I don't have a schedule yet, so bye.